start at the beginning of the middle, which is where you go from being an actuary to a restaurant tech CEO, which either sounds like a story for a great success or a horrific disaster. And so, what possessed you, Sterling, to go from one thing that you understood to one thing that you didn't?
Yeah, that move was a really interesting one because I actually really liked my job. Like an actuary is like a lot of people make fun of this job. It's a combination of stats and finance. It's like the nerdiest thing you can do. But I really liked it. I liked the company I worked for. I had a great boss. I had super interesting customers. I had an expense account that no one ever really looked at. So it was a good gig. And then I left after 2 years, which many of my coworkers and friends were confused about. But I had the entrepreneurial itch. I mean, I was there for not more than 6 months, and I was already talking about, I wanted to start a company one day. And I think that it had always been there. I mean, even as a kid, I was more interested in playing games like Roller Coaster Tycoon and like managing a theme park than I was, playing Halo or a first person shooter. Like that entrepreneur part was like really in there from the beginning. So I just wanted to start a company. I actually didn't care necessarily what the company did. I just wanted to start one. And as a 23-year-old in downtown Chicago with disposable income, I spent a lot of time at bars. And, I thought, I had a great idea that we could start a bar app, right? A place where you could order and pay for drinks on your phone and have it be brought automatically to your table or, available for express pickup at the bar. Now, a company obviously failed, but it was really just wanting to be an entrepreneur that kind of led me to that path.
Talk to me about your relationship with failure because, what I found in my own life is that like you have to love failure. You have to be attached to it. You've got to see it for what it is, which is an outcome. And you're able to learn from that outcome, both positive and negative. How did those first few failures impact how you decided to approach Chowley?
It's the only reason Chowly started was because of failure. I grew up with an older brother, and he was basically better than me at everything. So I was used to failure. I was used to losing. That guy never let me win. I had to always work twice as hard and still come up short. So failure was never something. It wasn't foreign to me. And so when the first company failed, um, it was really a chance for me to learn, and I somewhat knew that at the point, but in the moment, I mean, it was definitely a valley. I mean, I had tens of thousands of dollars of credit card debt. I was sleeping on an air mattress. The company had failed. My co-founder had kind of walked out because he didn't see it working out. So I was laying on my bedroom floor, kind of feeling sorry for myself, and called my brother. He basically was like, "Well, you're gonna sit there and sulk about it. You're gonna go start something else, figure it out." I was like, "Oh, he's right." Within 2 weeks, I had three different projects, with potential to kind of give me a stream of income so I could pay rent, and one of them ended up turning into Chowly. So Chowly doesn't happen without that failure.
Well, and I would ask you, when it comes to Chowley, I'm sure you did the math at some point. And you're like, here's what I want to do. I want to create a solution for a market that's almost impossible to penetrate. But once you do, you figure out no one has any expendable income. And so, how do I create a solution for people that don't particularly want it and don't really have the money to pay for it? So then you would have to ask yourself, I would think, does this need to exist? And why must I be the person that brings this thing into the world? So give me the context on that. So, like, you look at the landscape
Yeah.
and because you could just called toast, right? Said, hey, build this thing. This would be a good idea for you to do. Why did it have to be you? Why did it have to be this? What was your thought process in that moment?
That is a good question. I thought almost about none of that. The big mistake that I made with the first company is that I had a solution in my head and I was trying to find problems that I could apply it to, right? Like I, as a consumer, I wanted to order drinks on my phone. Like I had a solution in mind. And what I realized from that failure is that is the complete ass backwards way to actually build something that provides value. You actually need to chase the problems and have no clue what the solution is. And so what we did when we were working on Chowly is we were really chasing the problems, because the first problem was just that technology is just too damn hard for restaurants. I mean, this is back in 2016, mind you. And so I was like, well, why? Like, what's hard about it? Or like, why are you feeling this way? And you kind of dig down and you just realize that it's too complicated. It needs to be simplified. And the common use case that we were getting from these restaurants is that, like, well, it's the third party marketplaces. You know, I got to hire two kids from DePaul University to come and plop themselves in front of two computers and manually enter orders during my busy hours from 6 to 9 p.m. And so now I'm spending money on this labor to just do data entry, right? And so then I was like, okay, if I can solve that problem, right, that is going to provide value to the restaurant. And then that's how we built it, and that's really still how we build the product today. And after you solve that problem, everything else is just another problem. The go-to-market, how do you talk to the restaurants? How do you convince them to spend money on something they may not understand? Like, you just continually kind of chase these problems, and it's really just how it's how you build the business. After a few years, what I realized is that most of our customers were entrepreneurs too. And so this thing that I had this deep passion for, of this entrepreneurship, I realized I could actually get from our customers, and I could potentially help them on their entrepreneurship journey. I love entrepreneurs. They work hard, they hustle, they're creative, they're not afraid of failure, all the things that I love. And so I kind of like fell into this hospitality industry and kind of fell into this entrepreneurship side of the industry that I love so much.
Restaurant owners, I mean, by nature, myself included, we're not the easiest people to work with, right? We're not the most inviting. In addition to having low to no budgets, we're also not pleasures to work with. And I think a huge hurdle there is trust, and is building trust. And what's foundational to trust is understanding. And so I would ask you, like, there's so many tech bros that enter the industry, right? And they're like, I'm going to save you people, right?
That have the same haircut. They look like me.
We have the same haircut. But the reason I bring it up is because what you possess is what I think most lack, which is curiosity, genuine curiosity, right? That you're not here to save us with this solution that is innately perfect from the outset. But like, you've spent a lot of years, despite how young you are, which I resent you for. Despite how young you are, you have spent years becoming a student of the industry. And so I would ask you, what were the assumptions you had going into this about restaurant ownership and operations that were proven true and kind of proven wrong through the many years that you spent building the initial iterations of Chowley?
Oh man, that's a good one. I mean, I think I came into the space as a student. The nice part about starting my career as an actuary is that, as an actuary, even when you graduate college, you still have to keep taking exams. So you're taking like 2 exams a year. You have to study hundreds of hours for it. And so my brain has kind of always been conditioned for this learning, right? It's this eternal learner and doing that. And so when I came into the restaurant space, I was very open about what I didn't know and asked lots of questions. And I know that sometimes, especially the restaurant owners and operators that I talk to, would hear these questions in the back of their mind, like, this kid has no idea what he's talking about. How's he going to help me? But I always was very clear on what I did know. So I could go log into the back of their point of sale system, whether it was one of 9 different systems, and know exactly where to go, help them with their menu. And as each conversation I had, I got smarter and smarter. I did, learn the business. But one thing that I still maintain today when we talk to restaurants, I always tell them, I will never know your business as well as you do. Never. I'll know a lot more about how Google Business Profile can drive traffic to your website. I'll know more about how the nested modifiers will integrate with these 6 different platforms, but I won't know, I'll never know more about your business. So when you tell me something about your business, I'm going to believe you, because you're always going to know better than me.
But you do have access to data. And I'd be curious to know. So you launch Chowly, and then when you do, it gives you access to incredible amounts of data. It's like pulling the lid off the
Yep.
top of the industry. And Chowly has evolved a lot since the day you launched. I would ask you, what were the ahas? What were the paradigm shifts when you initially started seeing that data come in? What were the symptoms of the problems? What were the actual problems? And where did you see opportunities?
Man, there have been so many. Data's a wonderful thing. When you have a ton of it, it'll tell you a story about an industry, but it won't tell you the details of each individual store and each individual rooftop. I mean, I can look at the data and see that it was really tough on restaurants last year, right? Whether I look at our own data or some of the public data that's available, from some publicly traded companies in the restaurant space. But that doesn't mean there aren't restaurants who are absolutely thriving last year and are beating the odds and are growing. And so the data can tell you a lot of things, but it won't tell you everything. And so when I think about like the paradigm shifts over the years, one of the most interesting things that we got to see at Chowly is we got to see the entire landscape of all of the marketplaces and delivery platforms. When we first started, Eat24 and Caviar, right, which aren't even companies by themselves anymore, they were leading the space. When we first started, Uber Eats wasn't actually a marketplace. It was just a guy with 20 subs and a heating lamp in his, in his car driving around a corporate block. Like it was so early in space, and so we got to watch all of this. Like one of the best kept secrets in the industry is that DoorDash was really eating Grubhub's market share. Back in the day, this is all public now. We got to see that, and so we would be very interested to see it. And so when I saw that, you kind of see how the market was going, and then you saw the first bit of consolidation. And we're like, okay, we know the space is consolidating. So, I mean, that was a big paradigm shift for us, just watching this market mature and grow and consolidate and who those players were going to be. And that helped us help restaurants, because a restaurant may not have heard of DoorDash in their area, but they heard of Uber Eats, and we could tell them DoorDash is actually doing pretty well and could bring you some more sales if you're interested in adding it on and handling the commissions. So that was really helpful. And I think the other one was just the true cost of third parties. It's not just your commission rate, right? Sometimes there's additional service fees being charged to your customers. There's chargebacks, the disputes. Sometimes there's payment processing. Sometimes they're covering part of your promotions, all of your promotions, or none of your promotions. And so, like, understanding the true cost, everyone likes to quote the 30% kind of as the full rack commission rate. But if you were to really look at the deposits coming into the account, I know groups that are closer to 35 or 40% from all this extra stuff that gets put in there, and to give you the true cost. So those would be like two paradigm shifts that I think are top of mind for me that we got to see because of kind of the place that we sit in the space.
I do think you sit in a really unique vantage point, and I think that you advocate on behalf of the restaurateur. So, if you were to advise the restaurateurs listening, how should they see third party delivery? And is there a world that exists where it's not us versus them? Because I mean, the great irony is like these third party delivery companies don't make any money either. So they charge us enough that we don't make any money. And then none of them are cash flow positive either. So, how should we look at them? And is there, in your mind, from your vantage point, is there a holistic way for us to survive together?
Yeah, it's the power of and. It's not or. It's not I should have my own first party ordering, or I should have third party. It's and there's also a whole nother layer that these value these marketplaces provide just from their driver networks, right? Uber Connect and DoorDash Drive and Grubhub, they all have just the access to their driver networks, which can be incredibly valuable for a restaurant, even if they have their own drivers, that they can actually use them for overflow. This helps get them more orders and be able to satisfy more customers. Like there's a lot of places where it makes a ton of sense, but it has to be viewed as an incremental sales channel, and you have to understand that that commission is a marketing fee. That's your marketing budget. If you're doing $100,000 of sales on DoorDash and you have a 30% commission, you have a $30,000 budget for that channel for marketing. And that's pretty expensive for what you're getting. And so every incremental order you get as a business, whether you're in tech or restaurants or anything else, as you continue to get more and more aggressive on marketing and sales, each incremental one does become more expensive. That's a very natural kind of business methodology, and it's okay. But there are a lot of things that you need to be doing to ensure that it doesn't go from expensive and cross the line to unprofitable, right? And so that means you might need to inflate your prices on the third parties. You might use something like dynamic pricing, so you only increase them when you're busy. You might only put some of your higher margin items on there. You need to have someone watching your disputes if you're doing any type of volume. So, because the dispute rates on the third parties are 3 to 5 times higher than what you'd see on your first parties. And if you're not watching it, there's just this leaky bucket of another 1, 2, 3% of margin, which might be all of your margin walking out the door. And so it's just about being smart with these platforms. And if you are smart, it can be an expensive channel, but one that still provides a lot of value to your restaurant.
I want to talk about sales and marketing tactics and techniques because I actually think this is an area where you truly shine. But I want to set the foundations by saying, generally, restaurant tech is a dumpster fire. As an industry, truly, owners and operators are just drowning in subscriptions for things that they either don't use or don't understand the true efficacy of like how to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And so if we believe that that's true, which I think you and I are aligned on, one of the things that you've done really well is you've positioned Chowly as a holistic sales and marketing tool. Talk to me about what that means in practical application, how you're able to guide someone through an ordering process to get more and feel like they're getting more value in the process.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the super early learnings that we had at Chowly, like literally day 2 of Chowly, is that one of the most valuable things that we can do for a restaurant is to do the work for them, right? It's not necessarily just a software that you provide to a restaurant if there's a large implementation process that requires them to go through a ton of steps, right? Because to your point, they don't have time for that. And they really shouldn't have to spend their time on it. To be honest, their time's much better spent, doing things that actually have to do with the food they're selling or the customers they have. And so that really is something that we've lived by for a long time. And especially our current, flagship product, our platform product that kind of is that holistic offering that you're talking about. Like we do so much of the work in there. Like we go into the Google business profile and update it for them. We go and make sure that the names are consistent across all of the locations because we know that helps with brand awareness on the SEO side. We go in there and make sure their primary category is set right because of the query parameters that Google uses. We make sure that their hours are always up to date because we already know them based off of integrating into the point of sale. And so it's really like doing all of these things for them so that they can get back to work. And that's a huge part of what we do through that implementation process. If you can get us access to this system, we can clean it up for you and put this on as close to autopilot as we can and report the results back to you. So we're just like an employee that does the work and reports the results back to you. So everyone's being held accountable, and they're not the ones having to do 8, 10, 9 steps every single week just to cover some of these basics.
One of the aha moments for me, I do a fair amount of coaching and consulting. And like one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was they said, nobody wants to buy more stuff. Like, that's not it. Nobody wants to buy your stuff. The reason that they're paying you is because they have this desired outcome in their mind, and they're paying you to get there faster. And so I say that because Chowly is a successful company. You guys have a great reputation and all of that. And you so casually reference the Chowly platform, but that's a strategic risk, right? That was a massive financial investment in creating a holistic platform that nobody asked for, but everybody probably secretly wanted. But had you polled your customers and said, hey, does more software sound good? They would probably be like, oh, no, thanks, I'm full. So before we even get into the software, I want to talk about the benefits, right? If what you sell isn't software, it's getting to their goals faster. When you initially conceptualized the Chowly platform, like what were the outcomes for the individuals that are using the software? How did you want their lives to be impacted?
The nice part about that is that if you talk to enough of them and ask the right questions, they'll tell you. So when I envisioned the platform, I didn't have in my head, here are the 3 things that I want to provide. I more just had, all right, here is, I talked to like 90 restaurant operators in 90 days, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was I love talking to entrepreneurs. The passion
Yes.
keeps everything interesting. And when you asked enough questions and you understood and you started doing the pattern matching, it became fairly clear what they wanted. They wanted more orders, which I know sounds stupid simple, but that's really what they wanted. They wanted more orders. They wanted to have less of a reliance on third parties, right? If they were having so much success on these marketplaces, that means their restaurant's doing well, right? They're clearly making good food. It's clearly resonating with the hyper local audience. So why can't that traffic go to first party? And so that's what the platform is really kind of designed around, those 2 things. And then I got to kind of pair my experience with understanding that integration is actually how you get these 2 things, right? And so the platform is it's like 10, 11 products kind of like tied into one, but each one builds on top of the other and makes the other more valuable. Because we run the Google ads, we now know the keywords of the hyperlocal audience around that location. So we can feed those words into the marketing website to drive more organic traffic. And if we can drive more organic traffic, we can get the consumers to discover that restaurant via Google faster and before they discover the restaurant on the third party. Because trying to convert someone who orders from your restaurant on Grubhub once a week to your first party is really hard. People have habits and they don't want to break them. So our techniques and our practices and what we've seen work, it's actually not to go after those customers. Go after the ones who don't know about you yet. And if they find you first on your website, now they can become a direct customer. And so this is how we can kind of create that more orders and start converting over time the share of your revenue from this expensive channel to a much more cost-efficient channel. And all of this just stemmed from talking to operators, asking lots of questions, and combining that with kind of the domain expertise that we worked on. I mean, we bought 2 companies to help put together this platform. It is a ton of product. And so making sure that it actually provided value and tied together was a huge challenge.
Well, and I don't think people just want more orders. I think they want people ordering more things on those orders. And
Of
so I want
course.
you to talk to me about everything that you learned around and executed on as it relates to suggestive selling, dynamic pricing, and increasing average order value.
Yeah, basket size, huge. We had a customer on the platform product, and after 2 weeks, we were looking at the order volumes, and they were exactly the same as they were before us. And we were trying to figure out why and what happened. Was there like a weather, like was there like a cold weather snap or something that's preventing it? And what was interesting is that we came to this call ready to talk to this customer and so prepared to talk about like why aren't the orders increasing? And he was so happy on the call, and we were wondering why. And it's because his orders were the same, but the sales through digital were up 20% because
Right.
his average basket size had gone up 20% as people were ordering more. Um, and so things to make you order more. I mean, they seem basic, but making to actually execute on them, it can be a little difficult. One is just having pictures on your menu. Like, to be frank, like, I know it sounds simple, but I mean, there's a large swath of restaurants that don't have images of their food, and you don't have to hire a photographer to do this. You certainly can; they'll do a great job. But I mean, if you've got an iPhone and you've got portrait mode, you make sure you're in a well lit place, and you can those pictures will work. And so having pictures on there is number one. Number two is just having a friendly ordering site, so that like it looks nice. It's not a ton of clicks to go through. That's something we pay a ton of attention to. How many clicks does it take for them to actually submit an order, and just making it easy on them. Um, you know, having an account that they can save their payment profile for, having access to Apple and Google Pay on the sites, and then the biggest thing is just the cross sell. You know, one of the things I love about technology is that it doesn't get tired, and it doesn't mind hearing no. So just having on the checkout page the suggested upselling, what pairs well, and it's fairly similar across every group. Drinks, desserts, apps, pick those ones that you know so well, and just remind the customer and ask them, hey, do you want to add this? And it's amazing that the percentage of times that they actually add it's quite low, right? We're talking single digit percentage. But even if it's 1% of the time, they're adding $4 or $5 to their order. That will increase the basket size on average. And it doesn't tire. It doesn't care that the last 96 people said no. It just keeps asking. And I think that that's a big part of it. Being able to shuffle them, knowing which ones to do is super helpful. Tons of AI models are really good at that now. In my opinion, this is a table stakes feature for any online ordering product. Other people have it, not just us. But those are some of the things that we've seen work really well in increasing the basket sizes.
I want to talk about friction. So, what I found through my entrepreneurial career is that the things that I never gave a second thought to are the things that should keep me up at night. One of those things is abandoned cart. And the idea that like any friction associated with the sales process is going to lead to some level of churn. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 100%. You don't know how many people go to order through your website, get halfway through the process and just say, nah, this is just.
I know exactly how many people do that actually. But come on.
Let's talk about it because again, like that's where the paranoia should be. Everybody wants new customers, right? Like that's why people are tuning in today. Everybody wants new customers, but like we should focus on that after we say how many people have gone to the website, had trouble, there's friction associated with the ordering process, and they just say, nah, not for me. Everything was perfect, but I can't use Apple Pay and I don't have my wallet on me. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. Talk to me about what you guys are seeing as it relates to friction in the sales process and it ultimately leading to people abandoning their carts.
It was one of the things that led us to acquire a company called Koala because they were so good at this. And they'd done so much research and had so much data on why they did all these little things. There's no silver bullets in this. There really isn't. It's just a bunch of lead bullets. It's a bunch of 1% improvements that stack on top of each other. And when it comes to the friction on the online ordering experience, they're little things. You brought up the Apple Pay. That one's definitely on there. That one actually moves a little bit more than 1%. But they're, I gave an example. If you have required modifiers on an item, like they have to select a bread type or a size or something, what will end up happening is that they're looking at an item and they hit add to cart, and it doesn't let them because they haven't selected the required modifier. So you need to do one of two things. Either have one default selected for them, or when they hit that button, scroll to it, bring them right where they need to go, and then give them a visual cue that you need to select one of these things. And the difference between that, it's just another 1%, and it's another way to kind of get that order. And there are 20 to 30 of those similar examples throughout the ordering process, and you just have to be maniacal about it. And I bet you there's still some we haven't learned yet. We're constantly looking for more. We're constantly looking for an edge, on the conversion rates and these friction points. Because we know if we continue to just stack these 1% improvements, it's how you come out with a really great tool, and it's how you get more orders for restaurants.
I also want to talk about marketing and marketing automation because I think it's important. Right now, what we're talking about is all of the doodads and gizmos in the platform that drive people that have never done business with you to do business with you, which is great. In my mind, it is so much easier to get someone that has ordered from you in the past to order from you again. One of the questions that I use to try and create paradigm shifts in the mind of my clients is, what would your favorite restaurant have to do to convince you to come back? What kind of discount or promo would they have to offer? And everyone says the same thing, like nothing. They would just have to invite me back. And, I would ask most of the people listening today, like, what are you doing to get people to order from you again? And the truth is, no one has time to segment out that audience and then figure out that, okay, 7 days later from when they place the order, I need this email to go out. It needs to look like authentic one-to-one communication at scale. I mean, it makes you want to throw up in your mouth. But you guys have managed to automate the process. Talk to me about what that looks like inside the Chowly platform and what you've seen that do from the data to your client sales.
We can tell after about 2 weeks where we should be focusing the marketing. So I'll give you an example of kind of two different customers. One customer, we're doing a couple thousand website visits a week. We're getting a couple hundred orders a week. And we send an email to their customer base. They have an email list, or we've got one for them. We send an email about catering, right? Not about ordering, just about catering, which is not really a very now thing. And we'll see the website traffic increase, right? Because people will see an email quick. But this customer went from 30 orders a day to that day, they did 50. So why did they get that incremental 20 when we sent out a catering? They weren't catering orders. This is a clue that tells you that this restaurant has a good audience. They have an engaged audience. And that audience, we don't need to target them with offers. We just need to remind them that we're there. That's it. We just need to remind them that we're there. We can tell them about a new item. And this is how we can keep those marketing costs down. That email is free. The ROI on it was infinite. Divide by 0, right? And you can see that in a lot of different ways. You can also see it within Google ads. One of the things that I like about the platform is that we can see a Google ad and we can see exactly who clicked on it and ordered. But furthermore, we can see whether that was a new customer or an existing customer. And for this particular restaurant group, half of them were existing customers. So this is how it's just getting in front of them and reminding them like, oh yeah, I like this place. I'm going to get them for lunch today. Right. And so getting one more order out of an existing customer. So for this group, we shouldn't be doing any meta ads, which we told them don't spend money because meta is much more of an awareness, creation. Like we just need to kind of get in front of them, and you can do that in more cost-effective ways. Now, let me go to the other restaurant group. They're doing a ton of third parties. They're doing 600 orders a week on the marketplaces, and they're doing like 5, a day on their first party. And be like, okay, there's a huge disparity here, and we're running kind of Google ads, and we're doing some emails, and we're not seeing the increase. Okay, this group has an awareness problem. People just literally don't know about them in that hyper local area. So let's figure out what are the people searching for. Let's dial in the hours. Let's make sure that we're targeting the right group. And in this case, like if you want meta ads to convert, you need to put an offer on them, right? And so in this case, we're really focusing more on how do we just get them more site traffic, right? I'm not really worried about orders right now. Orders come later. We've got to solve the awareness problem first. And when you're solving awareness problem, now meta ads is a great strategy for this group. We actually might tone down the Google ads on them because Google ads is more for immediate attribution. So you kind of have to look at the restaurant and look at the hyper local for each location, because every location is different. And you kind of got to figure out where they are at on that digital marketing journey. And then we get to plug in the tactics that help them along the way.
So here's what's exciting about what you just said. And I think very unique to you and your platform is in restaurant tech, there's almost no personalization. Like
Yeah.
what right? Like what one restaurant needs, every restaurant gets, because it's very easy to build it that way, right? But you're functioning almost like a bespoke marketing agency for each one of your restaurants, analyzing the data and then adjusting the marketing and advertising effort to their specific needs. Talk to me about internally, like the lift to build something like that, because it had to be insane.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge engineering effort, but there's just a domain expertise effort that's required. This is what we really. This was the most valuable thing that we got when we acquired Targetable, is we got years and years of domain expertise from them. And so what we kind of learned, and I'd known their CEO for years, and we loved, he was teaching me all sorts of stuff. Their CTO has taught me even more in the past month since he's been with us. There's a handful of plays, right? We're up to 11 playbooks right now. If we were to do another interview in a few months, maybe we'll have 12, 13, 14. But there's a handful of them. And what we do is we continually add to them, and we continue to get better and better at running them. And for us, it's trying to figure out as quickly as possible which play we need to run for them. It's not unlimited. It's not customized, right? But it is built for the different types of situations that most restaurants are in. For example, like our websites that we build, it's not Squarespace. It's not Wix. It is not fully customizable, right? It doesn't do those things because it doesn't need to. For the most part, a lot of those customizations actually hurt your site traffic, don't help it. We basically build you an e-commerce site because your website has 2 jobs: get traffic, get orders. And so that's what our sites are focused on. And so we kind of have like taken this world of infinite, permutations, and have tried to really slim it down and create these playbooks and these kind of isolated things that we know work, so that we can, reliably kind of provide the value that we're promising to restaurants.
Talk to me about dynamic pricing. I think something that is as exciting as it is terrifying for all of us, right?
Yeah, dynamic pricing is a fun one. I personally am a big believer in it, especially for restaurants specifically. I think that restaurants have this this just built-in unfairness that they're held to such a higher standard than like any other business, and people don't realize it's actually one of the hardest businesses to run. It's a very deceptively difficult business model. And so on the dynamic pricing side, if all these other industries can do it, to me there's no reason why restaurants shouldn't. They actually have a higher variability than their costs than the other industries that do it, which is the real reason you should have it. And so I'm a very big believer in it. A lot of restaurants do not agree with me and do not share that opinion. A lot do. I would say it's definitely our most polarizing product, but it also is one that I have seen. I mean, for a restaurant, it's a checkbox. Like they do nothing. We check. They say they want it. We check a box. It just happens, and then they get literally more profit dollars in their pocket, not sales, because this is a price increase. The cost isn't going up with this, right? So this is going directly in it. And I've just seen way too many cases of restaurants getting 7, 8, 10. We have one group that I think is going to do like $80,000 this year in additional profit because of dynamic pricing. And to me, a restaurant should be using every single tool in their toolbox to try to crank up that EBITDA and add another point to their margin. So I'm a big believer in it, but look, a lot of restaurants aren't, so no worries. Our platform product includes it. You can opt out. You don't have to use it. And I will say that I'm a very big believer in it for third parties. I'm less of a believer in it for the first party online ordering. I'm still good with it, but I would say 90+% of our customers only have it on for their third party marketplaces.
Here's what I'll tell you. If I could just advocate for it for just a minute, because I am a huge advocate of dynamic pricing. The biggest objection is that I'm going to piss people off. That's what they're worried about, right? People are going to see that it's unfair, to which I always say, like, what kind of customer frequency are you seeing? Like, do you think people remember the price of that pepperoni pizza month over month? Are they ordering from you every day? Because if they're ordering pizza from you every day, they're not going to live long. That's probably not your target market anyway. And so but really, think about frequency. I don't remember how much I paid for gas last week or the week before or the week before. And it's not because I'm independently wealthy. It's because I want gas. I need gas. I got to get somewhere. And so as it relates to dynamic pricing, I think that the biggest hurdle isn't logical. I think it's emotional.
Yeah.
Because I think that based on the average customer frequency that most restaurants are seeing, it is so unlikely that people would actually notice that it's ridiculous. And once they're there, intent is already high, so they're going to complete the purchase. That's just my 2 cents. I'll get off that soapbox.
I'm with you. I'm really with you, and I'm in the same boat. I mean, if the cost, this is the thing with bakeries right now, the cost of eggs go up. I know a handful of bakeries who just increase their prices because they don't want to lose money. And as soon as you explain it to a customer, 9 out of 10 times, yeah, makes sense.
Dude, I have coached literally hundreds of restaurants through price increases and given them the language that they would use to explain it to their customers, only for no one to say anything. No one notices.
Josh, that's not just restaurants. It's every single business, every single entrepreneur, me included. I went through this too. You're terrified the first time of raising prices. You're just terrified of it. And then you do it once, and then you realize, oh, wait, this is actually normal. As long as you're transparent about it and you're honest about it, it's almost always going to be better for the business. So it's every entrepreneur ever. I have that you have that conversation with restaurants. I have that conversation with tech entrepreneurs all the time.
I want to give you the opportunity to flex a little bit, because here's the coolest thing I think about the whole situation. I consult for restaurants. I consult for SaaS companies that are trying to enter the market. And when I talk to those SaaS companies, they say What's the easiest way to enter the market? And I say, it just needs to be free. Just make it free. And by that, I don't mean that you don't charge money, but like nobody's looking to save more time or more effort. Like either it's going to make them more money or it's going to save them more money. And it needs to be a significant margin above
Yeah.
whatever the software itself cost. And I think one of the coolest things about Chowly platform is that like you've got copious amounts of data that show that Chowly's not actually free. It actually makes you more money while saving you more money. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's actually really fun because the platform's so wide ranging. Right? It's everything outside of your four walls that if you don't like one of the cost savings or money increases that we're telling you we're doing, oh, we got more. We had a group, we went live with them. They're only live for a week. And they got their first bill and they're like, I don't even like what value are you getting from me? And we showed them like the ads. Like, hey, you ran $5 a day on ads, you spent $35 in ads, and here's $400 of sales. We gave you a 10x ROI. He's like, those people would have ordered from me anyway. We're like, well, no. We explained to him how the tagging system works and like how it's immediate, and he just wasn't into it. It's like, okay, let's go look at our dispute management. Well, we had won 9 disputes on his third party. It's a very high volume place. And we'd saved him $120 in a week that he would not have done because he wasn't watching them before. Then we went to the dynamic pricing and said, last week we got you another $50 in markups that you wouldn't have otherwise had from the third party marketplace. And so you just stack this value conversation. Like by the time you get your next bill, we've already paid for the next 6 months of our service for you. And so it's one of the things that we needed the message to be clear and we needed it to be overwhelming. And so that's really what we kind of think of on how we talk to our customers is that the value is overwhelming, right? It's so much that you have to just be like, oh man, this is great. I can get back to work. And so that's really how it's kind of designed.
What should we steal from you? What are the tactics, the tools, the strategies that have served you well as an entrepreneur that we could internalize and use to benefit our own lives and careers?
I'm a huge believer in mentors. Huge believer in mentors. My dad was my first and greatest mentor, and one of the things he really beat into me as I was growing up was to get mentors. My first day as an actuary, I met the head of the Chicago office, guy had 2,000 people reporting to him. And I was like, hey, would you be interested in being my mentor? Like, we just meet like once a month, once every other month. I'll come with questions and, I'll follow up and do all this. Like, but it's like a crazy thing to ask someone. But he said yes. And he's still one of my mentors today. I've learned a lot from him about leadership in particular. He's an excellent leader. And, I have another one who's more into tech. I have a whole roster of them. Mentors have been huge for me. And that just kind of goes along the line of kind of the eternal learner, right? I'm always trying to learn more from mentors. Same thing, I was trying to learn more from our customers. Going all the way back, I was trying to learn more from actuarial textbooks. These two things have been super important to me. And then the other one is just, it's just resilience. A failure or a mistake isn't one if you learn from it. All right, and you actually take action and make a change from it. And, look, Chowly is literally built, and the only reason it exists is because the first one failed, right? And I made 15 classic mistakes on it so that I wouldn't make them on Chowly. So I think that just being resilient, pushing through those tough times, being the eternal learner, always having mentors, plural. I think those are just 3 pillars for me that I think have served me so well.